Thank you for joining us, Alyssa. Um, I've been I've been dealing with insulin resistance since I started this whole channel over a year and a half ago, and I'm curious to get your take on it. So, what is insulin resistance?
Yes, yeah. And you know what? When I started on the program as well over 2 years ago, I was actually insulin resistant as well. So I want to kind of go back to the basics. 88% of Americans are metabolically unhealthy. 1 in 3 are pre-diabetic, and more than 8 out of 10 don't even know it. So when we think about metabolic health, it's not binary. It's not like you're healthy one day, then the next day you're unhealthy. But there's this spectrum, and it's all the way from being healthy and insulin sensitive to chronic conditions such as type 2 diabetes. The most important thing is understanding where you are, because we don't know by just looking at us on the outside. You can be overweight or have some subcutaneous fat on the belly and be metabolically healthy, or you could be very low body fat percentage and be metabolically unhealthy. So we just want to understand where we are, and that's where Signos can come in and help you have actual insight into your own metabolism. But what I want to do today for this live is really talk about, okay, what is the metabolic health spectrum, and starting from insulin sensitivity to insulin resistance to prediabetes and type 2 diabetes.
Great. Right. It's a good point that you mentioned earlier. Oftentimes you're unaware of this condition. And for me, I was diminishing, I had diminishing energy year after year
Yeah.
in my mid to late 40s. So naturally I went to my family doctor and they run an A1C test. But the A1C is the average blood sugar level over a 3-month period, right? And that doesn't necessarily tell you about the insulin resistance issue.
Yeah.
So even though I had these symptoms, they said, you're fine, and that's it. And they kind of sent me on my way. That's how it occurred for me.
Yeah. And those symptoms, when we think about just our daily lives, it may seem like, okay, just being tired or having low energy in the morning or not sleeping well is just part of our new norm, but that is not normal. We should be feeling the natural energy and not having those cravings or some of these other symptoms.
Yeah.
So when we talk about that metabolic health spectrum, starting with being insulin sensitive. So you may have heard about insulin sensitivity. This is where your blood sugar levels are within a normal and healthy range, where your body is very sensitive. Your cells are sensitive to insulin's message, meaning it responds very well to it and it does its job effectively. And as a reminder, insulin is a hormone that helps control our glucose levels. It basically brings the sugar out of the bloodstream and into the cell to use for energy. So when you're insulin sensitive, you're doing great. Your cells are responding very well to that message. However, this can change over time, and it's not just one day. It can take years and decades, but it can change depending on your diet and other lifestyle factors. And really, the next step is that insulin resistance, which we both know of. And this is really where those cells become resistant to insulin's message, and to compensate, there's more and more insulin produced by the pancreas to help bring those blood sugar levels down. So more and more insulin is needed to get glucose out of the bloodstream and into the cells for energy. And when you have that excess insulin, this is where we experience those symptoms. You're experiencing the fatigue. But for me, it was, experiencing the inability to lose weight. And honestly, like, I was experiencing more of that irritability or hanger, going from meal to meal. If I didn't eat, I was like, oh my gosh, I need something. And I was very irritable. And that can be a symptom of, that insulin resistance, along with, poor sleep and brain fog, the, sugar cravings, those intense sugar cravings. So that can be a few symptoms of having insulin resistance.
Yeah, some of the other ones I had were just extremely tired after eating a meal. Like,
Yeah.
needed to have a nap, couldn't function very well at all, and had to fight through that. That was a big one for me. That's what, it was slowing my productivity down. I just had to do something about it, and there wasn't any clear path to that. Going to my regular family doctor. So that was interesting that it's not part of their diagnosis, insulin resistance. It's more like if you are a type 2 diabetic, now you fit into this category, but there's
Yeah.
no warning for that.
And no,
you're either there or you're not.
yeah, and that's where, you know, using Signos and having insight into your own, you know, your blood sugar, that's where you can take these steps to prevent that. So maybe you're experiencing fatigue because you had a meal that spiked you and then you dropped really fast and you're just tired afterwards. But your A1C may look okay, but you're not having insight into those swings or that glucose variability throughout the day,
Yeah.
which can be causing all those symptoms. And the symptoms can be different for everybody.
Yeah.
You know, like it could be the fatigue for you, it's the irritability for me. For some people, it's you know, the inability to lose weight. So there are many, you know, side effects of that insulin resistance, which can then develop into prediabetes, where you'll see the blood sugar is elevated. It's not high enough to be diagnosed with diabetes, but this is where insulin resistance worsens and the pancreas can no longer keep up. And so what happens is you'll see higher insulin levels and then also higher blood sugar levels, which then can develop to type 2 diabetes, where the cells are severely insulin resistant, blood sugar levels elevate to those type 2 diabetic levels. And that can lead to health problems like heart disease and cognitive decline and, you know, fatty liver disease and other chronic conditions. And just like you said, you know, you want to take action now. Yeah. Because it can take years and to develop into this. And those symptoms, they become part of our normal daily lives. I experience them, but they're not. They're just not normal. And this is where you want to have that insight, see where you are, take more of a holistic approach where you're focusing on, okay, maybe it's stress management, or maybe it's sleep, or maybe for me, it was a breakfast I was eating every single day that I was really spiking to. But I could see that. And now I'm like, okay, I can take action and make these small changes to help stabilize my glucose in the morning so I'm not experiencing those swings. I'm not irritable or hangry, you know, by my next meal.
Yeah, it's a good point. You mentioned this doesn't happen overnight. This could be decades in the making. And for the most part, it usually is, from what I know. Just years and years of eating this modern diet with highly processed food, spiking your blood sugar time after time. Every time you eat, you're spiking. You get 4 or 5 spikes in a day. That's a lot of highly refined carbohydrates that are causing an issue over a long period of time. And having the glucose monitor is very revealing with that. I had no idea what was actually happening to my blood sugar. One of the biggest lessons that I learned with it is not to eat a high carbohydrate meal late at night.
Yeah.
And I've done this before, and I don't do it anymore. I make it a point not to do this, like having pizza late at night and going to sleep. My blood sugar will rise, and it will spike all through the night, 6 hours, because I'm not moving. So that was a big revelation for me. I no longer do that. And without the data from the glucose monitor, I would have never known that. I would have never known that this is happening to me. So
yeah,
that information is really really revealing, and it's very, very valuable.
And that's where you're picking up on trends in the glucose data. You know, we're not using the continuous glucose monitor as a diagnostic tool. We are looking at trends and patterns and seeing how your lifestyle, how your sleep, how your stress, how your movement and exercise, what you're eating, how that is impacting your glucose, which impacts everything in our body because glucose is our energy. You know, that provides our energy for life. So, you know, you're seeing, you know, your daily habits and what is happening in real time. So you're really picking up on these trends. And, you know, if you do have any further questions, we always recommend, you know, going to your physician and getting labs drawn and looking further. But the Signos program, and especially the CGM, you're able to see in real time the impact of your lifestyle, which is really helpful.
Yeah, it really takes the guesswork out of it. You know, a lot of people say, why even bother if you're healthy? Why have a CGM? It's like we said earlier, this stuff doesn't happen overnight, and you want to catch these trends early because they can lead to this, like elevating your blood sugar time after time, high spikes that last for a long time over time can wear at your system and cause that insulin resistance, right? So when whenever I hear that, I say to myself, you know, I get an opportunity to talk to a lot of people who have type 2 diabetes. And I ask them, if you had had a warning before you automatically, when they would go to their doctor and the doctor says, you have type 2 diabetes, and there was no warning. My mom was like that. She went to the doctor, you have type 2 diabetes. There was no warning. So I think a lot of people would like to have had the opportunity to take action before this is, you know, actually sets in with type 2 diabetes. And being aware of your blood sugar is a key point to that. I think that's why I did it. I have type 2 diabetes in my family, and I said, you know, I've got to get a handle on this, especially as I'm getting into my 50s. I'm 52 now. I feel better now than I did when I was in my mid-40s, because I started to become conscious of that. And the CGM really helps you to dial that in. So it's very specific. I know that if I eat a certain food, it's going to be problematic. I know that if I eat it at the wrong time, it's going to be problematic. So that data really, really helped me out a lot.
And just the, you know, the small micro behavioral changes and what we have in our app that can help stabilize your glucose, you can experience, you know, less of those symptoms like immediately. You know, when you start stabilizing your blood sugar, you're not getting that crashing. You're not having those cravings or the irritability or just like the need to just fall asleep right after a meal.
Yeah.
So you can see and feel in real time the impact of stabilizing your blood sugar. And then also for the long term, you're helping, you know, prevent any of those chronic conditions down the line.
Right, right, yeah. I always get, a lot of people are asking me too, what are the symptoms of insulin resistance? So we know that fatigue is a big one. I've also heard about skin discoloration in the folds of your skin.
Yeah.
Different things like that, swelling in the feet, neuropathy, you know, tingling in the hands and feet, numbness feelings, things like that. Those are all signs of it as well. Do you know of anything else that people should be looking out for?
Yeah, like the skin tags and the, you know, those are kind of what you mentioned, those the physical symptoms. Some, again, it can manifest differently in people. So again, like having that insight will help you make those connections, but really also just like the brain fog, the irritableness, the, you know, the headaches, those are all signs and symptoms of being on that blood sugar roller coaster. The cravings, the sugar cravings, you know, those are other signs. And again, it's going to be different in different people, but just having that awareness and starting to make those connections can be really helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Thank you, Alyssa, for your time here today. If anybody's interested in getting their own CGM, I recommend that you get whatever one you can. First off, I'm not just here to sell this product, but the data you get from a CGM is invaluable if you're concerned about your metabolic health, and especially your blood sugar with regard to pre-diabetes, type 2 diabetes. I happen to like Signos. I've tried all of them out there, or most of them. There are new ones popping up, but I like Signos, and there's a big reason. A lot of the hardware is the same on these CGMs, but it really comes down to that interface on your cell phone. How intuitive is it? How easy is it? What features are on there to help you make the changes that are necessary to better your health? And to me, the Signos app and the customer service, they deliver that information. So this is the one I like. If you're interested in it, there's a link on my page with a 20% discount. If you want to sign up for it. So Alyssa, thanks again so much for all your help, and we'll do this again soon.
Yes, thank you so much.
And we'll talk to you later.